Yes, welcome back, Looney listeners, to another Isla Ra Sessions. This time we have with us one of our co-hosts, Rebecca, who will be taking us through her 4 Isla Ra books. Strap yourselves in, and we'll see everyone over at Grant Mansion. Yes, hi, Loonies. It is your High Priest of Khonshu, Rey here, and I am with the other co-hosts of Into the Night, Connor Shu. Connor Shu's here. Hi, Connor, how are you?
Hello, I am doing good. Glad to be back in this mansion. I mean, contrary to what we've read, good things happen in this mansion when we are together.
And of course, we have Rebecca, who's doing her Isla Ra tonight. We thought it would be a bit of fun. One of the co-hosts going through their Isla Ra. Rebecca, how are you? Welcome to Grant Mansion.
Hi. Thank you. I'm sick, but good apart from that. So apologies if you get any coughs or sneezes or.
That's right.
Sort of like grouchy voices.
Little do the listeners know, Connor and I, we actually broke Rebecca out of Mount Sinai Hospital, just to be with us here tonight. We had to make our way through a swathe of the hand, saw a bit of Daredevil on the way, but we are here now, and we can't wait to get cracking. So hopefully, Rebecca, hang on, why don't we all just walk down here? And we'll make our way towards the main room, and we can fix you up with a cup of tea or something stronger, Rebecca.
Yeah, that sounds good. Nice cup of tea, bit of brandy.
Excellent.
That's all you need.
All right, cool. Well, as we are walking here, and as I've shown a lot of guests before, Connor, you'd know this as well. To the left there, we have the room of Khonshu there with his statue, which we go and worship him every now and again, don't we?
Oh, I mean, look, he's been pretty cheeky lately,
As we kind of go down further, we've passed Mark Spector and Marlene's bedroom with the jacuzzi and the squeaky velvet. Connor, you've been in there as well, I'm sure.
Oh yeah,
that sounds really dodgy.
I mean,
it is as dodgy as
depends whether you like buttered crab, I guess.
Connor, you've been hanging around that bedroom, right?
It's a really nice bed, Rebecca. Come on, fluffy pillows.
Yeah, Connor's been
jacuzzi.
Connor's been serving up the buttered crab sauce there, so that's been all been pretty good. And here we are. We make our way towards the fireplace. Nice. Beast skin rug this time, let's just make ourselves comfortable here, and we'll wait for Samuels. But actually, while we do that, let's just cut to a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Alright, well, let me ask you this then. If there was one comic character you'd want to spread the good word on, who would it be?
Look, that would have to be Superman. He is your bastion of good behaviour. Yeah, I reckon Soup.
I mean, I was going to say Moon Knight.
Moon Knight, he's alright. Moon Knight, he was the fight. A Moon Knight.
I think he's a really good role model, but whatever. Superman makes sense, I guess. Yeah, probably Superman then. Fine, I'll agree. Hi, I'm Connor, a fan of truth, justice, and the Australian way.
And I'm Rey, Lex Luthor sympathiser and Brainiac groupie.
And we're your hosts for Last Sons of Krypton, a Superman podcast where 2 Australians, one superfan and one newbie to Superman, cover everything, anything Superman. And it's going to be awesome.
We're even going to dress up as Superman.
I'll probably be more like Bizarro, but sure. So coming soon, make sure you guys keep an ear out.
Look forward to catching you then.
Whoosh!
Whee!
Yes, welcome back, loonies. We are here nice and comfy in our leather seats. We have the crackling fire. We have some classical music in the background. Let me just ring the bell. And let's just wait for Samuels to come around. Rebecca, what do you feel like to warm the throat?
A bit brandy. Go on.
Bit of brandy?
Do it properly.
Excellent,
Yeah.
excellent. We'll get some 18-year-old brandy. Connor Shrew, how about you? What can Samuels get you?
Oh, I think I'll grab some, what can I say, day-old tea.
Excellent.
Get it fresh from the supermarket a day ago. Real vintage.
Straight from the bag. Excellent. And look, I'm going to go for a whiskey, so we'll just wait for Samuels to turn up. But as you well know, loony listeners, we are here at Grant Mansion and we are doing an Isla Ra. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go through Rebecca's 4 Desert Island books. But as always, there's a set of questions that, just like to chat with you, Rebecca, as well, just so other loonies kind of get a better picture of who you are and how you got into comics. So I guess the thing that we always kick off with first is, Rebecca, how did you get into comics?
Through my parents, my sisters. I started reading with Asterix.
Right.
Pretty much.
Oh, yay.
I learnt to read quite late, or I admitted learning to read quite late. We're not entirely sure. I was a bit of a... I went to a free school, which, I don't know if they don't call them that now, but one of the schools where you turn up and you're allowed to do whatever you want.
Is that like Montessori? Is that the same thing?
Yeah, but I think Montessori even have a little bit more direction now. You literally turned up and you could do whatever you want.
Oh, wow.
So I refused to learn to read. I decided I couldn't read, even though I kind of know that I must have been able to read a little bit because of the but we used to do like terrible things, like we'd have painting, and I decided I didn't like painting. I painted my hands red and told them I was allergic to paint because that was a rash.
That's very smart.
So I didn't learn to read properly till I was 7.
Right.
So quite late. So my mum started me with a lot of Asterix from the local library.
Okay.
And then, so that's where and then we used to get comics instead of pocket money.
Oh, awesome. That's great.
Yeah, so like I've got 2 sisters, and we'd get taken to the newsagent, and we had very basic comics from America. Like, we had some British ones, but the ones we got from America were like digest versions, and they were all in the wrong order. So you'd never have like this continuous line. So we started off with like, I think we could each pick 1 comic. So we'd go in each week, each get a comic, and then swap them. And they were mostly, I think we'd always pick from like Spider-Man, X-Men, and it was usually the original X-Men at that time. I remember when New Mutants came out, and it was all like, I don't know if I can deal with this.
Too radical.
Occasionally the Avengers, but we were always put off by Captain America, which is kind of funny now.
Which is very ironic now. Yeah, of course. I mean, it's
really ironic now because he's like absolutely one of my favourites. But I remember like as kids going like, why would we like Captain America? Like, it's totally not for us.
Yeah.
So we'd just buy, but very little DC. Funnily, I think we'd occasionally get a Batman, but it just didn't appeal to us as like little kids, I guess.
Was it available there as well, or was it just more Marvel stuff, and that's
I
why
think
you...
there must have been at least, there must have been a Batman.
Batman, Superman,
but I just figure that it was never going to be as colourful, so I'm guessing the younger we were, the things like Spider-Man are always going to scream out at you. But those were our 2 favourites, were Spider-Man and X-Men.
Yeah.
And then we'd kind of get one of the British, like, stupid weekly ones, which were more like comic strip ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then swap them around. And then for, like, Jewish festivals, well, for Yom Kippur, which is the one where you have to go to synagogue all day and you're not eating anything. And kids obviously don't have to do that. So my mum would take us to would get, like, 3 or 4 times as many.
No.
So we'd sit in the synagogue quietly and read comics.
That's so cool.
And also loads of sweets, because nobody expects children not to eat anything, and we'd just go like there'd be all these kids who just sit at the back of the synagogue and be eating and like reading.
That's great.
But it just meant that every week we had something, and then we'd go up to visit our cousins, and I think they must have done the same because we'd always be swapping.
Yeah,
and they'd have all the war comics that came out here, so they'd have we had this Commando comic.
Right. No,
it was like these were all coming out in like little A5 versions.
Okay.
And it was like and then Dan Dare and all this Roy of the Rovers, all those kind of ones that you hear of being very stereotypically British.
Yeah.
Were all ones that I never really enjoyed them as much because, you know.
What?
Not that I believe in gendered reading, but I was never really that interested in war when I was a child.
Oh, fair enough. I mean, I'd imagine the same. I don't know about you, Connor, as well. I mean, growing up, I wasn't particularly drawn towards war or anything like that as well. Connor,
I had a weird bias against them. I was like, these are not comics. Why are they being sold?
Right. I mean, I think
war.
my cousin got them because he'd have the G.I. Joe and Action Man toys.
Right.
So they'd appeal to him on that level, but he wasn't really that interested in the kind of war side. So the Roy of the Rovers football ones were much more him.
I tend to agree with you, Connor, as well. I think growing up, war just wasn't superhero-y enough for me. Like, you know, if you were to delve into comics and stuff, so it was kind of, I found it a little boring and a little plain, I guess, because I think similar to like you said, Rebecca, as well. At a young age, kind of drawn to the colours and stuff. So, Incredible Hulk with the green and the purple was very striking, you know, and I remember that being very, very into that. Even Superman, blue and red, same with Spider-Man. So I think the colours really appeal to me, which is interesting. It's an interesting thing to think about, you know, for a young mind.
Because a lot of it was done a lot of it was done with printing costs and stuff like that. But they are very appealing, especially the front covers. And then, of course, X-Men for us at least had female characters. And I know that it's hard to judge now whether that's me sort of saying, oh, I liked it because it had women, or it had women because I liked it because I loved Spider-Man. Yeah. But I do remember being extremely excited at finding out Kitty Pryde was Jewish.
Oh yeah, but you have that,
and a young kid. Like she was what, 13 or something? Yeah. I mean, she was like she was definitely a tween.
Yeah, she was the youngest out of. I always remembered her to be the youngest out of the whole group.
Right. Yeah. So when she was introduced, she was probably about the age I was when I was reading her.
And so,
and it was this huge thing, and it's one of those things I always remember when people now talk about representation. Is like, look, I loved Spider-Man, I loved every comic I read. I loved Asterix, and none of these have got anything to do with me. But like, there was something very special about coming in and going like, and she's Jewish.
Yeah,
like she's not only my age.
Yeah,
but like, you know, it's just like, very little of it makes it into the comic. It's not like, it's not representing my life in any way. Yeah. I'm like living this perfectly normal life.
Yeah.
And then my mum died when I was 11, having been this huge influence on what I started reading. Yeah. In terms of she's the one that got me to read and the one who felt guilty about me not reading.
Yeah.
And certainly the one who championed Asterix and things like that.
Yeah.
And bizarrely, it gives you another tie into superheroes. They've always lost parents.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yes. So there's another identifier there, I guess, for you as well. Which, and
there's a definite switch then to like comics that are about making your own family. Because then you sort of like cling to those a bit more, but it makes you feel less weird as a person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially as like it's not normal to be like one of the very few people in your entire school who's lost a parent, and that was throughout. That was right until I finished at 18. It's like I'm always going to be one of the only, because it's not normal to lose a parent under 18,
and that's
so like
how you'd be known as, like remembered by, I'm imagining, by your school friends and school colleagues, because that.
Well, I mean, we left where we were leaving. We were living up in Yorkshire. When my mum died, and we didn't stay there much longer because my dad had to leave to get a job because he was at university at the time. So all of a sudden we did this massive house move, and I remember, I know that like on the day of my mum's funeral, for example, they announced it at assembly
Oh wow, okay.
That everyone should be nice to us. And I never hated anyone as much as the head teacher who did that, because I was like, the next day, the people that you hate most at school, like imagine this, like your biggest enemies coming up and being nice to you.
Oh, that would have been
and
weird.
You're just wanting to punch, and you're just wanting to come and punch someone.
Yeah.
Because you're like going, no, like, you know. And then I moved to this boarding school, was where I went next. And it was a Jewish boarding school. So we'd go to synagogue. Well, you know, however many times a day. Doesn't really matter. I think, like, we'd do services 3 times a day. We wouldn't necessarily go to synagogue 3 times a day. But we'd do it for the festivals as well. And there's specific times that you do prayers for people who've died, who are in your close family. And everyone else would leave the synagogue. And there'd be, like, 10 people left. Who'd lost either a parent or I mean, you only do it for parents, siblings, and children. Yeah. So nobody's there is going to have lost a child. Yeah. So, well, maybe some of the staff, but you're left with. So everyone just walks out, and you're left with these like very few people. So you become very identified as one of the only people who. Yeah.
And
you have to go.
Did you form a connection to the others that were there that stayed behind, or?
More of a sort of like. Not really. I mean, like a little bit, but not. You know, it depends. Yeah. A little bit. Like you'd always recognise that you had to go through this, and it was very artificial. That everyone else was having to leave, and you were having to do this sort of. Yeah. These prayers, and it was always a little bit awkward, and you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, like just taking a little step back, because I'm intrigued actually. When you mentioned right off the bat that. Your mum in particular, but you got into comics because of reading, like you know, because of picking up the reading,
and not
So that was that because I don't know. I mean, just like you know, growing up as well, my parents and where I grew up around, no one ever considered comics as a medium to you know enhance reading. So was that? Did you say was that your mum's? Initiative, or
was my mum,
or is it common? Like,
and the local library?
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm just wondering if it's I don't know if it could be a UK thing as well. I don't know because kind of were you led towards comics at all? You know, to promote reading and all that. Oh, so I certainly hadn't been.
Yeah, not really. Not really fast, especially since I grew up in a small town, a school where grades 1 to 7 were a whole 48 kids combined, and obviously a smaller town library. Plus, we had the movies at the time, so it was a really different environment for comics reading. So you just kind of got it from the movies and never really.
That's true. Yeah, the more exposure
from the comics.
Yeah.
More exposure. And I mean, for us it was almost tie-in books to stuff on to cartoons and movies that would inspire reading, less so the comic books.
The comics, yeah. Because Rebecca, I know that.
Yeah, we absolutely had to. Our children's library was just full of comics.
Yeah, right.
It was. It was just full of Tintin and Asterix.
Well, that's exactly what I was. That's exactly what I was.
You're either one or the other. Yeah. Which do you like best, Tintin or Asterix?
I'm just wondering, in Europe, is that Tintin and Asterix? They might have just a higher profile than, say, them here in Australia. And
I mean, I don't know any library that doesn't have a full set of them all.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay, that's a big difference. Yeah.
Apart from ones that have fallen apart over the years, but all the Asterix books I have are all from the library I used to run. As they became as they started falling apart, I'd be like, I'll buy them. Yeah, and then we'd get new ones. So I mean, there's a lot of things to help kids read.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not that weighted towards comics, but it's everyone recognises them because then they read it when they were a kid.
Yeah, okay.
And then so you naturally go to it and a lot of parents will go to it automatically because they were like, oh, we like this.
That's fantastic.
And while they might not, because that it's wholesome content as well. You don't necessarily know with a Batman or a even a Spider-Man, I guess. Yeah, and I'm not saying that they're not wholesome. Content, no. I think on the whole, most superhero comics are. But the Asterix ones, the Asterix and Tintin both have heavy amounts of humour. They're very, Like, they're very slapsticky.
Yeah, yeah.
They've got things that your kids are going to get even if they're not reading.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's very interesting, and
like,
yeah, it's good.
It took me a long time to get some of the puns.
Oh, okay.
Like,
yeah.
I don't know how old I was before I realised, like, dogmatics was actually a word.
Oh, yes, same.
And not just the name of the dog.
Yeah.
And, like, or that the chief was actually called Vital Statistics. And not some weird name that I'd made up. But, like, it was, you can keep going back to them and getting more from them.
No, that's really good. And they're obviously very different from the American, say, / Marvel DC comics. I mean, I dabbled a little when I was young as well, and just the writing and I guess the layouts and the storytelling is a bit different. More so, I think, from Tintin than Asterix. Asterix. But yeah, I never liked Tintin as much, I have to say. Again, because he was a bit American goody-goody for me. Right.
So, which is, as we all know, like, I'll say it out now, Captain America is one of my favourite characters. So, like, this is, it's amazing. But then, 16-year-old me would have told you how much I hated America. Never been, didn't know anything about America, thought it was the worst country in the world, married an American. Like, so, which some of my school friends still can't quite get over. That I lived there and I married an American, and I was like, like, what you believe at 16 is not always right. It's like you're very sure that everything is factual, and you know that this is the worst thing ever.
You can't bank on.
And I was like, I was such a little socialist, like, down with the fascists and down with this, and and there's certain things that you change your mind on.
Exactly, your ideas change and develop as you grow up, and it's I think it's certainly. I mean, some aspects you can carry on from your younger years, but yeah, definitely that's what I find as well. Your opinions and your views change, so it's only natural. Oh, we thank you, Samuels. We have our drinks here. Rebecca, there's your brandy.
Thank you.
Connor, there is your tea straight from the bag. That is as fresh as.
Ooh, mate, gonna be chatting up with a certain boy at the diner later with this relatable tea bag goodness.
Oh yeah, well we might go there. Why not go there soon? And thank you, Samuel. There's the whiskey. Thank you, my good sir. We'll just give you a bell, I think, when we're ready to leave. I think Connor's just mentioned, and I think it's a good idea. We might head to Jenna's Diner a bit later on, maybe in the second half of this episode. But thank you, Samuels. Okay, well, as we kind of move on, Rebecca, I guess the second thing I'd like to ask, and we've kind of introduced it in the last few Isla Ras, is it's kind of like a hashtag support your LCS. So what I usually would like to ask as well is that if you can describe what your LCS would be, and I know that you've bounced through a couple, but maybe the one that you currently use, and
not a loyalist. Oh my God, Rebecca, come on.
The worst of
but yeah, and then maybe just a rundown of the layout, like as you walk in, give a vibe of the place. What is it? So I believe it. Is it the big one that I'm thinking of?
I do most of my mail order from Forbidden Planet in London, which is huge.
Yeah,
and then any going in and buying off the shelf I do from Orbital in London.
Yeah, right.
Which is an Eisner Award-winning one.
Yeah,
but it's very nice. And there is one now in Milton Keynes, which is where I live, called Magic Kingdom. But it's not that easy for me to get to.
Ah.
So, and because I'm in London fairly regularly, I'm afraid I'm not very good at supporting my local one. But I do still go there, just fairly infrequently. And I also give them all my... I give them any comics I don't want, though, so they can give it away to kids.
That's pretty good.
For, like, their giveaways. So I do that for my local one.
Yeah.
But they seem to be doing all right. They've started opening on Wednesdays now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I remember
That's the one in Milton Keynes.
Yeah, I remember you sent the photos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Magic Kingdom in Milton Keynes, I'll give them a pimp. Not that anyone else lives in Milton Keynes, but like they were open because they were connected to a game store, and the game store decided to start selling comics, and they decided to open a store next door, which was comics. But because the game store was already being closed on Wednesday, the comic shop was always closed on Wednesdays. And I'm like, if I can't go there on Wednesday and get the new comics, what's the point? And it's like a bus ride, and it's a bus ride away, so I have to kind of pay to get there and blah blah. So I go there less frequently, but now apparently they're open on Wednesdays. But the London one, Forbidden Planet, it's huge. I get it from there. It's the cheapest to get mail order from, because obviously they buy in such amounts that they get the biggest discount.
Like a substantial discount compared to the others, or?
Noticeable.
Oh, wow.
Enough to well cover the postage.
Yeah.
But I feel terrible for doing it, because I feel I should get from a smaller shop. So I kind of do a bit half and half.
Okay.
But it's hard to think of Forbidden Planet as your local.
Right.
Because
it's so big.
It's just such a conglomerate. Yeah. And also they tend to get a lot of variants and stuff like that, because they're ordering in those kind of quantities.
Yeah.
So Orbital's the one I would probably pimp the most. I love them.
Okay.
They're right next to a little theatre, and they're right by a tube station, so they're dead easy for me to get to.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what you imagine. They're probably no bigger than anyone else's comic shop. They're certainly not small, but they're not big. It's just one floor, and they got this week's comics, last week's comics, all in one display as you go in. And then they have a little room of indie comics.
A separate room.
Very cool.
What?
Yeah, separate. They have indie comics in with the main stuff as well, but they have like a lot of small press stuff, and they sell the Ditko comics. They're the only place in England that's selling those.
Okay.
Oh.
Then they have a little exhibition room. They tend to have lots of art exhibitions on throughout the year.
Cool.
I can't remember what they've got on at the moment, but I know it's a good one, because I know I'm planning to go. But it's quite little, but lots of nice. And then just the rest of the room is back issues.
Yeah, right. Are there lots?
Done by publisher.
Can you spend hours sifting through it? Or?
You probably could. I never get the chance to, because I'm usually in London to meet my sisters, and they get very bored of me being looking at comics. But the last time I was there, there's 3 big Comic Cons coming up in England, or 2 big ones and 1 smaller one, but my local one. So I made a list of all the people that I didn't have a lot of stuff from to get signed.
Okay.
And I thought I'll just go to Orbital and see what back issues I can get. So I spent a good hour there last time picking out ones that I wanted. Like I buy a lot of comics digitally.
Yep.
So because obviously I'm not that near a comic shop. So I didn't have the Moon Knight ones by the Death Runs in the Family.
Yep.
Because Ortega is going to one of the Comic Cons.
Ah,
So
lovely.
I went and picked those up, because I thought, that's really bad of me if I don't even make an effort with the Moon Knight one. I shamed into it.
Yeah, exactly. The pressure's on. Yeah.
Yeah. And then which other ones did I buy? I bought some Captain America, because Ed Brubaker's going to one of them.
He's a big name, right? He's great.
I presume the queue for Ed Brubaker is going to be so long that my chances of getting anything signed by him are 0. But you got to take something that isn't. I mean, obviously, I've got trades of his, but I just thought, yeah. And then foolishly bought one that he didn't actually write, so that's a story for another day. But his name's on the front cover. Don't ask. He gave story advice, but he didn't actually write it.
Consultant.
So I may have to go back and buy some more.
Yeah.
But I went and spent like 25 quid on back issues, which was quite fun.
Yeah. Did you get some really good discounts from those cons? I remember you came back with a whole swag of back issues. Like, just from...
Yeah, well, free comic book day and various sales they have. There's another one in London called Gosh, which is very nice.
Yeah.
And they have a whole pound box of Valiant.
Oh, yeah. That's it.
And I got some really nice ones there. Like, I got the Shadow Man all black cover.
Oh, you're not lovely.
So I didn't even know it was a thing until I was there, and I was like, oh, I want it now.
Yeah. I think Solar has an all black cover as well. I remember that in the old iteration.
One of them does, yeah. So Orbital doesn't tend to have that many cheap ones. They do have like some 50p bins, which is where I got a lot of authority from.
Yeah.
But they all have different discounts, and sometimes they have half price ones. And then bizarrely, I used to live up north, like 350 miles north of here, up in Newcastle.
Yeah.
Which, if you've read Hellblazer, you will know all about Newcastle. So I used to live up there, and I go up there every year for Free Comic Book Day to the comic shop up there, because I go and visit all my friends in Newcastle, blah blah, and they have all their back issues for 50p.
Yeah, right.
So that's where I tend to go mad on back issues and go, yeah, I'll just take the whole box and like.
Yeah, that's cool. That's So yeah,
That's
I mean,
fun.
So look, what I'll do, I always like to add these in the show notes and try to share the love, so to speak, for the local comic book stores. So I'll put in Forbidden Planet, obviously in London. I'll put in Magic Kingdom. Do they have a website? Do you know? Or Facebook? They must have a Facebook.
They've got a Facebook page.
Okay.
Yeah, they have a Facebook.
I'll do a Facebook link. And Orbital Comics, I wanted to also mention, and so they've got a nice store, but they also release a podcast as well, Rebecca, which you've...
They have several podcasts.
Oh, they've got several.
Yeah,
okay.
they have a...
Okay.
Well, they've got a couple. They have a normal sort of like a normal comics podcast, and then they have one where they look at TV and film stuff.
Okay.
Superior TV and film stuff. They got a really interesting blog as well that kind of explains Mr. Miracle to you issue by issue.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, they do some really cool things, so I quite like that. And bizarrely, the first time I went in there, one of them was like, "Do I know you from Twitter?" And I was like, "Maybe."
Lovely.
So now we chat a lot. So when I go in,
that's
it
good.
kind of like feels more friendly now.
That's almost a segue to the next bit. So anyway, I'll grab those things off you, Rebecca, the Orbital, maybe the information. I'll put that in the show notes. Now, the next thing I was going to ask, and I could have gone down the usual track of, because I usually ask, how did you get into, writing or podcasting? Or I was going to ask you about podcasting, but I'm going to steer clear of that. Connor from Sons of the Dragon and myself, we both shared our stories on his Isla Ra of how we kind of met you. So I want to actually open it up to yourself and to you, Connor Shu, as well, and maybe both of you can explain. I want to give a big shout out to Serious Issues comic books and Serious Issues podcast. I was wondering if both yourself and Connor maybe can describe, you both have administrator roles on the Serious Issues Comics group, Facebook group.
Yes.
And maybe explain or how you both came about that, and actually maybe give a plug to Serious Issues as well, what they do.
Yes. Well, first of all, it's all your fault, right? Number one.
Bloody hell, right.
I mean, as you must know. I mean, well, first of all, for everyone who the reason I know Ray is because we both listen to the same Defenders podcast, or Defenders podcasts.
Yes.
And then from that, we chatted a bit more on Twitter and stuff, and from that we chatted a bit on Facebook. I think I offered to send Ray a Iron Fist comic from New York Comic Con.
Yes.
Because I knew he'd said in comments that he was a big Iron Fist fan. And at some point in all those conversations, Ray said, "I've been listening to this Serious Issues podcast. You should come listen to it." And because it's your comic shop is
yes, King's Comics.
It's your local comic shop.
Yeah.
So King's Comics in Sydney. So Ray's comic shop kind of sponsors. As in, they provide all the comics for a podcast called Serious Issues, which is done by one of the girls who works there and another guy who know a lot about comics, and it's a lot of fun. And they talk about all the weekly comics and kind of review all the number ones, and then talk about their favourite ones from everything else, because you can't read everything. And there's a Facebook group attached to it. And
a massive group.
So obviously, yeah, it's got really big. So once I started listening to the podcast, obviously I joined the group. We chat there, and then eventually Levins, who's the guy who does the podcast, asked if I was interested in adminning.
Yeah, and actually,
yeah, why not?
Serious Issues is where we came across one young Mr. Stevens as well.
Yes,
hello.
where we came across our... Yep.
Yeah.
Changed our lives for the better.
Yes.
They dragged me over to the Defenders pod as well. Don't worry.
Yeah. Because for sure, like and so how do you both find? I'll open it to both of you. How do you both find? Do you get a lot of like trolling, and do you have to do a lot of censoring on the Facebook group? Or people are generally good. I mean, it's a huge one. There's about 2,500 people on there.
Yeah, something like that. No, we don't do a lot at all. I'm not saying that we probably did more before Levin switched on the having to get posts authorized.
You did.
But
you
still
do more.
A lot of the stuff that
you do more now. Or?
No, we do less now,
okay.
because like now we see every post before it goes live.
Course. Yeah.
So if people have posted, to be honest, the thing we get in touch with people most about is spoilers.
Yeah.
So somebody will have read a comic on Wednesday, 8 in the morning in Australia, and we know Americans aren't going to get it for 12, 13 hours, and they'll be like, oh my god, so-and-so died, and you just rewrite it to say, has anyone read this comic? Put spoilers in the comment. Is really the thing that I get in touch with. I mean, there's obviously people who make dickish comments, and one of us will try and get involved and say, have a bit of respect for each other, but actually it's I think remarkably hassle-free. Yeah.
And is there so as in contributing to the page as well as being admins as well, do you post up certain things? I know before, I think, Rebecca, you did panel of the week, right? And Connor, I know that you're quite prolific in posting stuff up, like solicitations and so forth. Are there things that you both look for to make sure is on there, as quick as possible?
I figure that most things somebody will post.
I guess
if I'm reading it, then I mean, I used to do the solicitations a lot, and then I worried about how much I was posting, and maybe other people would want to. So now I try and hold back. I'm online a lot, and I work from home, so I have a lot of opportunity to see to scroll through comics news.
Right.
I think. I broke the big Bendis going to DC story.
Yeah, right.
probably my proudest moment that I was online at the time. But also, I mean, the thing is that if we do it, it tends to be quite... we'll tend to go in without adding much. This is great, this is terrible. I'll just be like, he's moving, that's it.
Yeah, very objective.
That's the only real difference, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's the only difference if we do it.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, the group's actually really got a lot of people in it who are very cool and very even. Yeah.
And they share. I mean, it's great with that amount of people. I guess how much you can share and what each what a lot of people bring to the group, which is good. Can I ask both of you? Maybe I'll throw it maybe to you first, Connor Shoe. So without naming names, what would be the most hilarious or how should I put it, entertaining issue that you've had to deal with from one of the members or in the group? What has been the most memorable?
I think there's only one that takes the cake.
Yeah.
And Rebecca and I fought together to destroy it. But before, probably one of the bigger things that made us do post approval was this wonderful guy, I don't know, must have been about early 20s, who was just a big fan of this river. He just loved the river. He took photos in front of this river and used to post the Serious Issues Grey page about the river.
The river? Just like a river?
The river. It was just a river, but he loved it. He loved that river. He was well dressed, standing in front of a river. Someone was taking the photo for him.
Wow.
I got into so much trouble for deleting that post.
It seemed a bit odd to take photos of a river in a
It was a spam account, and I deleted it. And then everyone just thought, "Oh, we really missed the river guy."
Oh, God.
And I've never felt so guilty for doing the right thing in my life.
Anyway, Serious Issues is a very entertaining podcast and a very fun group. So again, that's something that I think Connor and I have put on the show notes before, but we'll chuck it on again. But
answer the questions if you sign up, or you won't get approved.
Oh, there are questions, are there? What are the questions?
They're very simple.
What are they?
What's your favourite superhero, and what's your favourite podcast?
Oh, okay. But the second one has to...
They're very easy. They're literally...
The second one has to be...
No, they just... Okay. No, it doesn't. It can be anything you want. It's to prove that you're not a spam.
Look, we actually put in some questions for the ITK group before, ages ago. And I remember just putting 3 like simple ones, like, name the personalities of Moon Knight. I can't remember the other 2. But it actually put off a few people. I think there's a couple of members going, look, I was going to join, but I couldn't be bothered answering, like, having to answer questions. I don't know. Well, and I guess ITK is small enough anyway to,
right.
To do that.
I mean, like, it's literally just to get rid of spam people.
Yeah.
Spam, people who don't really...
And people that want to talk about rivers and stuff, so...
Yeah. It's a very nice river.
Oh, I'm sure it is. Very picturesque.
Yeah.
Look, we could talk about rivers all night long, but I'm gonna subtly segue.
I don't have that much to say, guys. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna subtly segue to a final question that we usually ask people. And Rebecca, how did you get into Moon Knight?
Oh god, it's a hard one. It's not hard at all. My sister was into Moon Knight.
Oh, that's right. That was a big thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, my older sister was very into Moon Knight and told me to read it. And that was it, really.
Yeah, and there
and as you do with your older sibling, you say no for a long time.
Yeah.
And then you grudgingly have a flick through.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, this is actually quite good. Yeah. It's exactly the same way I got into Doctor Who. She was very into Doctor Who. I was like, I don't know.
It's very hard.
And then started watching it. Yeah.
It's very hard to get over that hump of the sibling thing. I had that thing with my sister as well with the Violent Femmes. They started listening to it first, and I didn't want to get into them because my sisters like them.
Right. And it's not because you don't like your sister.
No.
It's that you all want to have your own
That's
thing.
It. It's all about identity. And, And so even to this day, although the Violent Femmes are pretty cool, I have a slight aversion to them because of my sister, which is a shame.
And then I definitely got but he's Jewish, and it's like, okay.
Oh, yeah.
And it's gonna amuse everyone, but like when it finally hit me with Shadowland, and I know everyone hates Shadowland, blah blah blah, blah 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 blah, but I don't hate it. The Power Man 9 Fist story is amazing in it, and the Moon Knight story I think is pretty good.
Yeah.
So
it's good.
So because I was reading those, I read the Moon Knight one, and then went back and read more Moon Knight, and got because before it had just been very whatever she handed me, I'd read.
Yeah.
And then, so that was kind of how, and it's kind of weird that it was Shadowland that eventually did it, but that was more when I was actually reading regular comics.
Yeah.
So, because there were big breaks between school and university, and when you're doing other things, I know nowadays people aren't as much, and comics are more of that. But I had a big break between the ones I had as a kid.
Yeah, and
then having actual money to buy them myself.
Yeah.
So that's the gap. I went to this boarding school,
and
probably didn't read much then.
Would it be fair to say as well, I guess, between the three of us, that the big renaissance of reading Moon Knight, so to speak, would have been the Jeff Lemire run?
I mean, I read the Warren Ellis stuff.
Oh yeah, the Warren Ellis one as well. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that was very good.
But I wasn't. I mean, I love it, but the Lemire stuff is more my thing, of the introspection and the, and also Greg Small.
Yeah, I mean that was partly the impetus. That was partly the impetus, Connor, as well. I think that we started the podcast. I mean, the very first things that we covered was the whole Lemire run, which I
Well, yeah. That was what I was going to say. I got into Moon Knight through the Bottom and all of the Houston and
Benson and
yes,
yeah.
Yeah, they were actually how I got into there, but, Lemire was, this community and having more people than just myself to talk to about it, so Lemire's probably the most special of the Moon Knight runs.
I don't know, for me as well, it's the most special, also because I think it's one of the first, recent arcs that we covered as well, and I know, I wonder if, if we started this podcast a few years earlier, if then the Warren Ellis, Brian Wood and Colin Bunn run would have this same kind of sentimental connection that I think the Lemire run has for us, because it was so much fun, Connor. I mean, you remembered, almost every issue we were going way out of the gates, 10 out of 5, 12 out of 5. It was just mind blowing. So yeah.
But I think Connor's right. I think there's something about having these communities now where you can talk about comics as they come out.
Oh, absolutely.
It adds so much to them.
Yeah, it's so much fun just exactly discussing it. Back in the day, without sounding like an old fogey, we didn't have really that. Could only rely on just your friends, and not having many friends that really were into comics. It's
I had no friends who were into comics when I got back into them after school. Zero friends. They all looked at me as if I was so weird.
It's been so hard.
And then Sandman came, and we'll talk about Sandman in a bit.
Actually, good.
But that changed everything for me.
Yeah.
So in terms of knowing people who wanted to talk about comics. So.
And Connor, you're the same as well, I'd imagine. Smaller town or smaller school.
Yeah, well, there wasn't much comic talks at all, and I really avoided it until I don't know, 2 years ago, I'd say.
Yeah.
And, Serious Issues was, the place that really took me there, because that was the only place I could actually talk about it.
Yeah.
Even still mostly.
How about, manga, Connor? Were there friends, or was there a group there that you had that, or was that online?
No, not that either. Well, I sort of found that through being able to talk about there as well for Serious Issues, and I had the manga, I was reading manga a lot before comics.
Yes.
Actually.
Yeah.
Probably the first.
Yeah, right. Okay, well, I think again, the Grant Mansion being dusty and musty as it is, I think it's about time, guys. Have you guys finished your drinks?
Yeah.
Excellent. Connor, you may want to hold on to that tea bag because
that's what they say pockets are for, right?
That's it.
No.
Maybe if you ask nice, we can get Jenna to just give you a hot cuppa to dunk that one in. Let's go make our way now. Again, we'll take another short break. We're just going to hop in the limousine and let's make our way towards Jenna's diner. We might as well talk about your 4 books over there, Rebecca.
Yep.
Yeah? Happy with that?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Hi, this is Dave.
And I'm Stu, and we're from the Signal of Doom.
We're proud members of the Collective, and you're listening to Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast.
Yes, welcome again. Thank you, loony listeners. We are now amongst it. We are in Jenna's diner. It is, why not? It's very late night. The neon signs are up. We've got truckies coming in, getting their early breakfast. We have other people rounding off their night out. And we found a nice booth here. Are any of you hungry or thirsty?
Always.
Yeah. Well, we better get you that cup of Connor as well. So let me just hello, hi, Jenna. Hi, yes. Could we grab some hot water for Connor? He's got his tea bag here, and there's he's kind of like Crawley. Yeah, Crawley's over there. Hey, Connor, Crawley's waving to you.
Let's show these tea bags some camaraderie.
They're exchanging tea bags, or they're comparing tea bags. Cool, Jenna. We're just going to grab. Can you just get us the daily special? Thank you. Alrighty. Okay. Without any further ado, I am going to crack my copies open. Rebecca, we have 4 exciting books as your Isla Ra books. As always, Looney listeners, in our episode summary, there will be encrypted links to Rebecca's 4 books. So, if you don't want to be spoiled, don't hit those links. But if you want to read ahead and come back and listen to our, discussion on the 4 books, click the links and that should take you to what Rebecca's 4 books are. So, Connor, have you got your issues out as well?
Always with me.
Always with you, of course. Excellent. Like any good comic book fan. Rebecca, okay, so we're going to start, on the 2. If you were to rank these from 1 to 4, what would number 4 be on your list?
I don't like ranking them. It's hard enough to get it down to 4. And honestly, if I was going to go on any desert island, probably none of these would have made it. And obviously, I'd have big, thick omnibus trays.
Yeah.
So
it would. Life and
it's
death.
very hard to pick 4. Life or death.
Yeah, and you had to. Had to pick 4.
I would put probably Midnighter at 4.
Midnighter at 4. Okay. So, Rebecca has chosen...
Which is hard, because he's one of my favourite characters, so...
He's a pretty cool character.
Well,
this is the first book I've read of him, and he's pretty cool.
Oh.
Yeah.
We need to get you on that.
I was going to pick an issue of The Authority.
Yeah.
And I reread it all. I reread the Ellis run.
Okay.
And they're actually quite hard to appreciate standalone, I thought, every issue, so... I went with one that I thought would be easier as a standalone issue, and that's what I mean. I juggled it around a bit between favourite characters and favourite runs, and so this is Midnighter 4 from the 2016 one by Steve Orlando, and this time the artist Stephen Mooney, and even though the series was done by Acco, most of it, so it's quite early in the run, and it's a crossover with the Dick Grayson title.
Okay, so that was my first question. Does he usually team up with Dick Grayson? But no, this is
no.
Okay.
So this is in the run up to Midnighter being. So for anyone that doesn't know, The Authority was a Wildstorm comic. Wildstorm, DC got Wildstorm. We had no idea that they were ever going to integrate the two, and all of a sudden, in the Grayson comic, Midnighter turns up as not a baddie, but an antagonist. Who comes in and sort of is annoying at Dick.
Yeah.
And then they announced there was going to be a Midnighter series, and then so there was basically Midnighter first arrived in the DC universe, as far as I know, in the pages of Grayson. And the reason this issue is particularly interesting to me is I made a very good friend because of it. This specific issue. Because someone randomly asked on Twitter if they were reading Grayson, would they want to read Midnighter? And I replied, that's funny, because I'm reading Midnighter and I'm wondering if I should go and read Grayson. Because of this issue. Yeah. And then, because Steve Orlando had retweeted all of these, we ended up chatting, and she's now one of my best friends.
Oh, cool.
That's how I met Olivia. If anyone's heard of Olivia.
Pixie.
Yeah. Specifically through this issue,
right?
Of
awesome.
So that's why I picked this particular one, and it works quite well as standalone.
Yeah, well, it certainly was an easy, an enjoyable read for someone who totally has no idea who Midnighter is, and the thing of it. So the story, is definitely a standalone. Connor, what are your thoughts on this issue?
Oh, I mean, if there's anything I love, it's Grayson. And it's Midnighter. I love those two characters.
Yeah.
And I think we need to get you reading The Authority, Stormwatch. You get you, which is funny because they're both Warren Ellis books,
right?
And I think just to go on Rebecca's comment before, it's funny because we think of Moon Knight. Ellis's Moon Knight is so standalone and one issue off, but Ellis is probably one of the most doesn't make sense until the 6th issue kind of guys.
Yeah.
Outside of. And I mean.
Right, yeah.
But the Authority is great. I definitely recommend everyone read the Warren Ellis run of the Authority. It's very different. It influenced so much that came afterwards.
Okay.
In terms of a superhero team that didn't feel they needed to get permission to come in and step in.
Right.
Didn't care about world governments. Would just come in and say, "We're powerful. We've got it."
Yeah, yeah.
And everyone always jokes about Midnighter and Apollo being sort of gay Batman and gay Superman, and they laugh about it in this Midnighter run.
Yeah.
But there's more to them than that. But the interesting thing about the Authority is they all have such interesting powers.
Right.
That you just don't see. We talk so much about which comics borrow from other comics and which characters have got the same power sets. And honestly, you get to like the Authority and there's a few of them that you just come from nowhere. These power sets, and you're like, it's great.
So who are the Authority? So it's beyond Midnighter and Apollo, right? There are more.
Yeah, there's Midnighter and Apollo, which became very famous because they get married in it, and it was one of the first gay kisses in comics, and blah, blah, blah. So there's Jenny Sparks, is one of the starting members.
Okay.
She's the British smoker,
cool.
Spirit of the 20th century. So her power's electricity, because that is defining power of the 20th century. You then get to find out she's part of this thing where each century will have a Jenny attached to it. So the 21st century is Jenny Quantum, and eventually you meet the ones from the Steam Age and stuff like that. Very cool.
Okay.
And there's Jack Hawksmoor, who has the power to inhabit a city or be a city. Talk to a city.
I remember you telling me about this. Yeah,
there's one comic where he gets Paris to rise.
Right.
But we're not talking about like the people. We're talking about the actual buildings. It's a crazy. There's the Doctor, who's like shamanistic. There's the engineer, who has nanites in the pre-Bloodshotty world.
Okay.
But she's almost more nanite than human. She can do any. She's kind of got live wire type powers in terms of not the electricity, but the actual machines.
Yeah, technopath or something.
She can plug into any machines and do that. And it's just they're very cool.
Yeah.
There's others, there's others that come in and out of it.
Right.
I think it has a drop of quality when Mark Millar takes over. Everyone should believe that. They might not always believe that. But, Grant Morrison's everyone's done a bit of a run on the Authority, but it's never quite, there was a new 52 Stormwatch.
Oh, okay, there was. That recent.
Which famous, that was Paul Cornell started it, famously got Midnighter and Apollo back to their pre-wedding, like to when they were first falling in love.
Okay.
But also very famously has Midnighter with this hideous chin spike.
Spike?
You spend most of the... Yeah, you spend most of the comic laughing about his ridiculously bad outfit.
Right.
And like all the new 52 things rejigged. So I guess that's when they were first in DC World.
Oh, okay.
Like, I know this, and yet I'm lying about it. But then they got Steve Orlando, who's a queer writer, to come in and write Midnighter. You're not really... it starts with him and Apollo breaking up. This is obviously before they've got married. I don't think they're married in current DC continuity. So like, and it's sort of Midnighter trying to find out who he is really.
Okay.
Because we know Apollo's real name, and we know something about his background, but we know very little about Midnighter. He's been experimented on. His power is that he can. It's like he's got a fight computer in his head. He can predict how a fight's going to turn out. So he's an amazing fighter.
Right. Yeah.
And hyper violent. Enjoys it. You get none of the Batman angst.
Okay.
Much more Moon Knighty in that way.
Yeah, I was about to say. It's got the best aspects from both of them. Batman.
Pretty much. Yeah. Plus this kind of snarky sense of humour. A lot of the run he spends just... Like, I think the first...
Bit of ninja.
First issue of this run... First issue of this run starts with him going on Grindr to look for guys.
Okay.
So he's kind of shameless about it, but he doesn't know his real name, and that's what they split up over, like not knowing who he is and not wanting to know who he is.
Yeah.
and this whole run is kind of like solving some of that problem.
Okay.
So in the middle, you just get this kind of like, but in the middle, he does these like superhero things. So like here, he's taking, he goes and kidnaps Grayson basically, and takes him on this mission to go and attack people who are killing vampires, creating vampires.
Yeah, this was a very interesting. I like the premise of it. It reminded me a little on the surface. It reminded me a bit of Blade, more so the movies of it.
Yeah.
Because it's had this underground vampiric kind of world, but in this instance, the vampires are the victims, and it was pretty cool. I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah, it's like the mob are letting people kill tied up vampires so they can feel like they're superheroes.
Yeah, which is a very weird concept, but you can kind of understand it, right? Like there's a little niche for it, to have that empowered.
Yeah. In a world where superheroes exist, you imagine that this could be a thing.
Yeah.
But there's so much humour in here, from Grayson sort of like from Midnight to laughing and saying, "I hear you like taking orders from Men in Black."
Yeah.
While making little Batman signs
and the little Batman profile.
Yeah. So to Midnighter being very happy with his sexuality and flirting wildly with Dick Grayson.
So good.
To the incredible fight in a sauna.
Yes. Yeah. That was good
which
actually.
Has become in and of itself one of the most talked about things.
Really? How come?
Because so many people will show you that page of them showing off their abs.
Oh yeah. As they walk in. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's something you don't see a lot in comics, in mainstream comics,
true. Yeah.
where a gay guy is allowed to flirt with another guy, and the other guy isn't offended or upset about it, or doesn't laugh about it. It's just totally like him, like you get Midnighter saying things like, "Does mine measure up? I just wanted to hear you yell my name."
Yeah.
In the next, they have another team up in the run, and they share a room, which is quite funny. But there's no kind of like, it's just a totally normal thing, as it should be. Most hetero people have gay friends, and most gay people have. Like, it's quite normal for these things to just be like joking.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great to see like the dynamic of the two, because it is a dynamic you don't often see in comics, and it's quite refreshing.
Yeah. And Midnighter jokingly says he's brought Dick along to make sure he doesn't just kill everyone.
Yeah.
But you get the feeling he just wants him along.
Yeah. There's a real
he certainly doesn't really need the help.
Yeah, he can take care of himself. And so we have this master vampire or something turning homeless people into vampires, and they in turn become the victims of the mobs of people who want to kill. So it's it pretty much goes through that.
And it's a nice fun little concept of you don't see it very often. Yeah. The action scenes are great, and
so what is apart from being really good at fighting, what's Midnight's power? Because he slices a guy's head in half with his hand. What was like towards the end?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he was using his hand, but I don't know what he was using.
Right.
Because I was like, has he got a chain in his hand, or he's got something?
Right.
He definitely takes someone's face off.
Yeah, it's kind of quite clean. Maybe it's the spike gauntlet. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But
there's anyone I was rereading. I think he's got some sort of like cable or something that he likes.
Yeah, right. It could be like a garrote wire or something.
Could be his hand. Who knows?
Yeah.
But then he jokingly says it's because I was out of steaks. So. While Dick's looking at this kind of like beheaded guy.
So I mean, the art is great. There's a lot of action, enough action, and plenty of violence there. But as you say, there's quite a refreshing dynamic between the two.
You get a little bit more stuff about. I mean, they talk about things like the God Garden, which, if you're reading the whole run, would be a bit more obvious.
Yeah.
You get Dick in the pub afterwards, sort of saying, I am going to help you find out about who you are. Like, we know they've got your file.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's I like it. like the friendships.
Yeah, it's very good. Russia. Like I said, the art is quite nice. I do like the art. Connor, had you read this before as well, or?
Pardon?
Oh, Connor, I was just wondering if he had read.
Oh. Sorry.
Had you read?
I love. I found out about this run because of Grayson, which is just one of my favourite DC books of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I just love how fun that is, and this just carries over the fun. I love Midnighter here because he's both so edgy with his with his suit and his violence, but he's such a he's flirtatious, he's funny, he kind of just doesn't give a shit. There's none of that really heavy edge to him. It's just a lot of fun while also being quite macabre and heavy hitting when it wants to be. And its sequel, Midnighter and Apollo as well, is just super.
He
just gets you.
He certainly. I like his surety, and he's obviously really. As you say, Rebecca, there's no angst really. He seems to enjoy what he does, I find that the big difference between Midnighter and I guess the likes of Moon Knight. Actually, Moon Knight does like what he does as well, I guess. He has a certain morbid enjoyment in causing pain as well. But he's an interesting character. I might have to take you both up on that and check out the Authority. At least I want to check out Apollo at least, because he's a high level, high powered person, isn't he?
He has Superman level powers, but he's powered by the sun.
Yeah, isn't Superman powered by the sun?
He needs to charge.
Okay.
But Apollo actually needs to charge.
Right. Cool.
I think they do. So I'm sure you're about to learn a lot more about Superman than any of us will ever know.
Yeah.
But there's points in the Authority where they'll literally be like, "Quick, put him in front of the sun now, and then he can go do these crazy things."
Cool. Oh well, we'll check that one out. But this was a good one and done. There's obviously a few more threads here to carry on an arc into the subsequent issues. But a really good spotlight into Midnight.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I agree. I loved Grayson as well when I got into that because of this. So
So I know a few loonies are read a lot of DC as well, and a few of them like their Dick Grayson as well. Is Dick Grayson Nightwing? Have I got that right? Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, what would your third favourite one be, Rebecca?
Let's do Ivar.
Oh yeah,
because I love Ivar, but
so cool.
I'm just thinking of the other two to come.
Okay. So, sorry, Rebecca, can you maybe shout out the credits for this issue that you've chosen?
Yes, this is issue 2 of Ivar Time Walker by Valiant. So it's Valiant Comics. Mm-hmm. It's a 12-issue maxi run. It's Fred Van Lente, Clayton Henry, and Brian Reber on colours. And Ivar's not in very much, so they're slim picking. So I picked one from quite early on in the run because it's as you may guess by the name Ivar Time Walker, it deals with time travel, and time travel stories only get more complicated as they go on. Mm-hmm. But it is and I thought long and hard about what Valiant comic to pick, because there's other runs that I like just as much, but I think it is such a perfect maxi series, and it fits the 12 issues perfectly. I love the character, I love the skill set, I love the snarkiness, and I picked this one because it is called Let's Not Kill Hitler.
and I have...
Which says a lot about... time travel and exactly where they're going.
Well, it's very clever. I think Van Lente does a really cool way of interweaving this whole thing about Let's Not Kill Hitler into the whole stream of it. And I forgot how enjoyable Ivar Time Walker is to read.
Yeah.
I remember when I first read this, I think I binged it, so I read it one after the other, all the issues.
Yeah.
And as you say, it got more and more complicated, so I tended to get a little lost in things. But now, rereading just this issue, as a standalone issue 2, and, spending enough time to soak it in, it is so... Van Lente is a great writer. He's so well written.
Yeah.
Clayton Henry is brilliant.
It's just Yeah, and Perez does some of the art. And there's lots of really good art in the series. There's one of the most stunning double-page spreads of all comics.
Yeah.
In the series. So basically, Ivor's one of 3 brothers. The other 2 are actually immortal. He didn't get to immortality.
Oh, okay, yes.
But he can travel through time, so essentially he's immortal. The other 2 are much bigger in the Valiant universe.
Yes.
So you've got Armstrong, who's in Archer and Armstrong, and the Eternal Warrior, who's in many series as the Eternal Warrior. Ivor doesn't come into it very much. So this was quite a big deal, I think, when it came out. I came to it late. I came to All Valiant late. Especially came to this one late, because it was just like... It's kind of outside all the big titles.
Yes.
But it's so fun.
Yeah, it is very fun. And it has that disconnect, doesn't it? But despite Ivor not being in it that much, you have Neela, who's... That's the name, isn't it? Yeah, who's really good. Yeah. Like, she's kind of the avatar of as as we read through.
Yeah.
And it's just so fantastic. I love how... actually, before we get into it, Rebecca, in a nutshell... what kind of happens? What is this whole Hitler thing that we're talking about?
Right. So Neela is a physicist, and in issue 1, this guy turns up and basically says, "You've got to come with me. We've got to save history." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "You're about to invent time travel, and we have to stop you." That's your basic premise. So she's very new to it. She's following him around. Very start of this issue implies that there might be a family reason why she wants to try to change history. They've ended up in prehistoric times, so they're talking. Basically, he has a stopwatch that will show him when these time portals are going to open.
Yes.
And he gets to where they are, and he can navigate them. That's his skill. He can navigate them to get to where he wants. So they're having this discussion about whether you can change history, about the butterfly effect, and he's like, "Oh, I'll prove it to you." Because, as we know from all time travel stories of every genre, the first thing people talk about is like, going back to kill Hitler.
Yeah.
So right. the way this comic deals with it is by showing you why in this world and in how they set up time travel here, why you can't go back and kill Hitler.
Yeah.
And it's nothing to do with preserving reality or whatever, preserving timeline. It's about the fact that that's what all novice time travelers trying to do.
Yes.
So the only people in the room with you are other people trying to kill Hitler.
It's such a fun concept, that you actually...
Which is it's a great concept.
Yeah.
And in between you get all this stuff about sort of how in their world they don't stand out because she's Southeast Asian origin.
Yep. I like.
So they've got.
I like the what Van Lente does as well, adding little bits in as well, little bits of I guess scientific knowledge. The first bit that sprung out to me was the dragonfly at the beginning, and how why is it so big? Because I think that there's a certain percentage of more oxygen in the atmosphere. Which is the reason why it's bigger, and which is the reason why. And he does this thing with a couple of flint stones, and he's able to kind of fashion a little fireball from it because the atmosphere is so rich with oxygen. I like those little sciencey geeky things.
I like them talking about Hawking.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, and then you basically go through a timeline of Hitler. So starting in Vienna in 1909.
Yeah, is that accurate? Is that accurate? Like what happened to him?
Yeah, I believe it is.
So how cool is that? I love that historical aspect as well. Yeah.
Yeah. He's talking about the desire to go back and kill Hitler is known as Godwin's law. Of course, it's not. That's not what Godwin's law is. But it's very close, so it's kind of funny that they've dumped that in there.
Right.
Because Godwin's law is it's the amount of time on any internet forum where an argument will devolve to calling someone a Nazi or comparing them to Hitler.
Right.
So it's Godwin's law. In case you don't know what Godwin's law is, it's quite famous. People be fighting on the internet. I'll be like, "You're such a Nazi." That's Godwin's law.
Okay.
So then they go to First World War, where he was a minor grunt. Interestingly enough, Midnighted has a run where he also goes back to when Hitler was in the First World War,
Hey.
and he knees him in the crotch, knowing that he can't kill him.
Yeah.
He does it the midnight away.
Yeah.
And they discuss.
My favourite.
So she almost kills him there.
Yeah, I was just about to say my favourite cameo of Hitler was in Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade, where Indiana Jones bumps into him and he thinks he asks for his autograph and just signs our book. Anyway.
Yeah. So they do that one. She decides that she can't pull a gun. Mm-hmm. Then you get a full glimpse of it. Then you get this weird eyeball thing.
Yeah, that
is another time traveller.
Yeah.
But it's very funny. It talks. It says "lol" and things like that because it's supposed to be the human race has become. It's an aggregate of all social networks.
In like 30,000 AD or something.
So he's kind of taking the piss out of us.
Yeah.
And then so he becomes their nemesis for this run.
Yeah.
There's some really beautiful panel layouts where they're climbing through the panels.
Yeah.
And zipping through time. Which goes to show what fun they can have with the concept. And then you eventually go to 1944, so you're going to go to his Hitler's bunker.
I had to stop and marvel at the. I do love that splash page where they're kind of surrounded by the soldiers.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just stopped and really had a good look at it because I don't know. I just like the angle, the perspective. It's just so well drawn.
Yeah, I like that it's just when he says, I'll improvise, she's like, can you just stop improvising?
Yeah.
But I like that, most people would be totally phased, and Neela actually gets a handle on being rude to people back right at the end.
Yeah.
They're basically separated for interrogation by these Nazis, and right at the end, if you know him, you get to see the Eternal Warrior come in dressed as a Nazi as well.
I had to cheer for that as well. I'd totally forgotten about all this, and it was great to see him.
He does actually, if you've been reading this comic, he does actually appear in issue 1 as well. Because he's in the Napoleonic Wars there. Yeah. And so they have, and he helps them get off the boat, and so she has actually met him before, and then it carries on, and the next issue is he's not there to kill Hitler, so it's quite fun.
Yeah.
You find out what he's doing there, but it's a nice little. I thought this was it's hard to do a standalone issue in a time travel book as well.
Yeah.
But that one seemed to stand out the most.
Yeah, this one was again quite a nice. It rounds up really well. It leaves you hanging with a nice little reveal at the end. But it was a nice tight story. Van Lente, I think he does really well with Archer and Armstrong. I love his run with Archer and Armstrong, and reading this again, it just affirms that he's such a good writer. I think he's really underrated.
He really is. I think he is pretty underrated.
Yeah, very much so.
Because I love Archer and Armstrong as well. And I didn't at first, and then it just totally grabbed me. So it's another strong recommendation.
Yeah, I much prefer Van Lente's Archer and Armstrong than there's one that was released.
James Alfred.
Yeah, more recently. It was okay.
Yeah, me too.
But Van Lente.
I know there's people who strongly disagree with me on that. But the Van Lente, I love the Van Lente one.
Yeah, I just like what he adds.
I laugh so much in that run.
Sorry, what was that, Connor?
Oh, I honestly laugh out loud so much.
Yeah, in that run. It is such a good title. Now, so anyway, was that part of it? I think we should probably ask now. You gave me a list as well, Rebecca, of some honourable mentions. It was so hard. You were mentioning how to cut it down to 4.
Oh, it was so hard. Because, if people should know that Immortal Iron Fist was clearly going to be on there.
Yes.
There was going to be lots. I went through lots of Brian K. Vaughan.
Yep.
Adore him. Obviously, Pet Avengers, but it's hard to put the Pet Avengers up with the biggies.
I know.
Hellblazer, because I have I was going through the ones I've got tattooed on me, and I have Constantine tattooed on me, so Hellblazer's a big deal. Mm-hmm. But again, it's kind of their authority, if they're tried. Yep. And then, I love Captain America, I love Iron Man, but it's just hard to pick and we're going to get to Sandman,
Yes.
but like there's too many that could be standalone issues.
Yeah.
So like it's hard when you're doing something like this. You're kind of conflicted by the ones that make good standalone issues,
Yeah.
and the ones that don't, which is why trades are a lot easier in some respects. But it's an interesting exercise.
Yeah, no, it is. It's good. It's a challenging and interesting one. As you mentioned, I'm just going to look at the list here that you gave me. A couple of other ones that you'd mentioned. Avenging Spider-Man #5. The Cap as a comic artist issue. That sounded interesting.
It's adorable,
Yeah.
and it's so lovely. Everyone should read Avenging Spider-Man 5. It's Captain America talking about why he stopped being a comic book artist.
Oh, cool.
And Spider-Man trying to encourage him to like do it again. And it's a really sweet little sort of just
Very cool.
how you can lose something that you love.
No.
You know, because you've got bigger things to do, and it's like, but no, it's important to still do.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see Spider-Man just helping someone out.
Yeah, that's cool.
Without any fighting or things going wrong.
Yeah. And then Captain America Winter Kills. That was another one as well.
Yes, well, it's going
Is
to
that
always be
Brubaker?
from the... Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Bruback is just solid, isn't he? Actually, I see. Thank you, Jenna. Our stuff has arrived. Look, I think before we get into your last two, Rebecca, we might just take a quick short break once again. We'll be right back. But yeah, we'll go through your final two.
Hey there everyone, I'd like to tell you about the YouTube channel I Am Your Target Demographic. If you're a fan of comics, we have plenty that you'll enjoy over there, including a series called Heroes Like Us that explores comic characters of all sorts of different identities. And we even have a series that defines words that are used in nerd culture that you may not know what they mean. So you can check us out by heading to YouTube and searching I Am Your Target Demographic, or look up IAYTD on any social media outlet.
Hello, Loonies. We are back again, and as you know, we are speaking with our co-host Rebecca on her 4 Isla Ra books. We have covered 2 of them so far, one being Midnighter, the other being Ivar Time Walker, both very strong titles, and urge you to check out if you want to find, I don't know, something a little different to what you may be collecting at the moment. And we have our final 2 coming up. Oh, hang on. Hi, Crawley. How are you? Yes, Connor's a tea drinker. Yes, Crawley is just wondering, Connor, if you had any more tea bags.
Oh, mate. If there's anything I carry on me, it's tea bag. I hope English breakfast is okay. Earl Grey tastes like soap.
Are you kidding me? English breakfast is the best tea. I'd just like to point that out. Anyone with any doubts?
Yeah.
Best.
English breakfast, not Russian caravan.
We have confirmation.
Yeah, okay.
No, English breakfast.
Okay, well, Crawley, there you go. How's English breakfast for you? Okay, off he goes to get another cup of tea. All right, we've got our last 2 here, Rebecca. And to reveal the second last of your books, or the number 2, I guess, ranked number 2, what are we looking at this time? Sandman. Excellent.
I'm going to pronounce it Calliope. I know that's wrong, and I don't care.
I thought, no, well,
I believe that's wrong.
Well, isn't there a pronunciation in the issue? And that's how I took it as well. And he says Calliope.
Yeah.
So that's I had no idea as well what it would be. So I'm sticking with Calliope as well.
That's how I pronounce it. I always thought it was a nice name. Mm-hmm. So it's the first issue in the Dream Country arc, which are separate issues that are all. You have the first trade, which sets up everything, and it's all about Sandman being captured and how he gets free, and it's followed by these ones that are just a bit more loose, standalone issues. Mm-hmm. So the Sandman's a big deal to me because after university, my sister started buying it in singles, so she has the full run. And obviously, I was living with her at the time, but I used to read them at the same time. And it was the first time I'd got back into regular comic reading. And Sandman is incredibly adult, incredibly literary.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's
lots of references to like John Dee. I did an English degree, so like even in this one, there's a Midsummer Night's Dream. It's all about Shakespeare and his interactions with dream. And it was just these were the things we were talking about. And then from this, a friend of mine gave me The Adventures of Luther Arkwright. It's a time travel one. Well, it's a parallel universes story, which is why I could not find a standalone issue of that would work. It's Brian Talbot, drawn and written. Highly recommend it as well. For those two comics, I absolutely credit with getting me back into comics and keeping me in comics as an adult. Because at the time, I couldn't afford anything. I was just buying, and my sister apparently also has all sorts of. She also has Shade the Changing Man, and she had some Spawn, and but I only read Sandman. I was just give me Sandman.
Yeah, I think with Sandman it's great because, as you mentioned, it's it really is I guess a balance between comic books and literature as well. The way that Neil Gaiman writes it, it's it's really nice. I don't know how else to really describe it, but it's very Gaiman.
I mean, it's a lot of this. It is, but it's kind of on the dark side of Gaiman. I think now even he writes a lot more sort of humorous stuff in with his. But it's Gaiman in that it's very urban fantasy.
Yeah.
So it's about the and I know a lot of people now say it doesn't deal with a lot of things as well as it could have dealt with them. But it's very much a product of its time.
Yeah.
It's what established him as a big name. Yeah. And I'm sure if he was writing it now, it'd be very different. But it is what it is. And the reason I picked there's a lot of great standout issues with Sandman. That's the difference.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, shall I do the Death issue? Should we do the Orpheus issue, which is amazing, has Constantine in it, and that's the other nice thing. So you have drop-ins from other characters you might know about.
But that faded out later on, didn't it? It initially began with a bit of the
yes.
Yeah.
So and then you're dealing with there's a lot of books I've read where you have anthropomorphic death and dream and time, and so this is kind of the same. You have the endless and how they interact with humanity, and the reason I picked Calliope is because as a kid, whenever it originally came out, so assume I was in my late teens. Let's see, 1991. I was 21 when it first came out. Yes, I am that old. And it just hit me really hard about it's kind of brutal. It is brutal. Yeah. It's a story about rape.
It is, yeah.
And abuse, but also about Greek muses. Yeah. And so Calliope's one of the muses. She's the youngest muse. This is a story about how someone captured her and is using her to be their muse, and eventually sells her on to a younger person who then does the same.
And this is a writer, so Gaiman's obviously it's kind of mirroring Gaiman, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So Erasmus Fry is an actual person.
And Maddox, Richard Maddox?
Well, it's not a real person.
No.
Richard Maddox. So, no, I mean, they're very close to real writers. And what they're doing, so, and it's all, it's this is what people would do. This is what, it's basically a Faustian story, but without them losing their soul.
Yeah.
So, they're making a deal to get the fame and fortune. But in this point, instead of the Faust stuff, now they're just raping a young woman who absolutely doesn't want to be there, but still has this effect of being the muse.
Yeah. It's such a
because she is actually a muse.
Yeah, it's such a thing,
and she's not drawn. She's not drawn pretty in this.
Yeah,
she's drawn bony and kind of unpleasant looking.
Yeah.
Her hair's not nice, she's not looked after well. It's not, I'm sure it would get a lot of hatred now as a comic, but I just remember how much it affected me at the time. And I think that's why I picked it over some of the more fun ones like the Death issue. and even the Orpheus issue.
I think what I love about what I love about this, I guess, and why I think there's a definite of its time for the 90s, of course. Like, there's no escaping that. But I think what's so good about Calliope and how it still stands up is the fact that it's never exploitative. It's just raw. Like, the way they talk about rape, both the characters and, the way it's narrated is just so, disgusting and real, and the way they portray these two writer characters as, way too real, and they're, like, in their morals and their ethics and their approach to this, and it's just like
and they
actually
don't even
makes you feel disgusted, which is what you want.
Yeah, you're disgusted throughout, even when he says like the first thing he did was rape her nervously, and then it just becomes a matter of course, and then she sort of prays to the other muses, and they're like kind of there's nothing we can do. You were captured according to that's how it has to happen, and they're like, well, there must be someone you could ask, and she was like, yes, just send everyone, even Aeneas, and Aeneas is Sandman. So it's the name for Morpheus. So
I mean, Richard.
And so you obviously know, you obviously know from there that there's some connection between them. You just don't know what it is.
Yeah. And I think like Richard as well. I just wanted to say and touch upon what you were saying, Connor, about him in general, and Erasmus as well, is that he's not a likable character at all. Like the first thing is like he's got writer's block, so he's looking to somehow get around that, by almost cheating, because he's come across this thing that will enable him to unblock it, and in the scheme of things not be a natural way of come about. He's going to try and get Calliope, and then he abuses her. Like, not only does he gain from her, but he abuses, his golden goose, so to speak, as well. And so it is this whole thread of disgust. I found like, this guy is not really a nice guy, and he's starting to get more fame and fortune, but he still he even justifies what he does to her, saying, "Well, look, she's 1,000 years old. She's not really human anyway."
Yeah, she's not human.
Which is again
like
really terrible things. So
it's really awful.
Yeah.
No, they do mention that Calliope and Dream have a child together. But that's all you know about it. And you get the flashbacks. You get Richard Maddox, and they're just hideous people.
But then Morpheus actually one-ups them after Calliope asks his help.
Yes, she does eventually say, anyone, just come get me. And this is what she refers to when they told me he'd just been imprisoned, and he was. And she says, just do whatever you can, like free me.
Yeah. It's really interesting. Actually, I didn't expect him to do what he did, which is actually show up face to face to Richard first. I thought he would have gone through some sort of dream or something, but he actually tries to reason with him first, like in the fact that just stop doing it, just let it go. And I think he gets a sense of Richard when he goes, who are you? Get out of here! I'm not going to do that. And that's when he takes the next step.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that as well. Like, I love that the sense that Morpheus, who everyone's like, she's been scared of calling. She's not called him before now. She suddenly calls him, and he'll come in and just be this kind of horrific guy to this guy, but he deserves every bit of it. So again, it's kind of me wanting every bit of revenge possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he basically drives him mad with ideas.
Yeah.
Like, you think he's going to kill him or do something like that, but he does exactly what you'd expect him to do.
Yeah.
Suddenly, Calliope's looking more beautiful in the last few panels. And
actually, Gaiman's writing of when he starts spurting, Maddox starts spurting out all these random ideas. It is actually just a beautiful bit of prose. It is totally random, but I guess the words themselves, way he describes it, it's really quite captivating when you read it.
and you can imagine someone just spewing out ideas like that, but it's so horrific that he starts writing on the wall with his fingers because he has to get the ideas out. Yeah. And it very much gives you the sense that Sandman was a horrific book as well as, like, remember some of the more fun things. We all remember, like, Delirium and Desire and all the Destiny stuff, but right in the beginning when they were, like, doing this and when they had the serial killers convention, there was some proper, like, considering now I will say that I don't read horror, I was really into this.
Yeah, this is very much horror.
How Mrs. Hellblazer on the arm. Yeah.
Yep, pretty much. This was my 90s,
Yeah, it's certainly a really good book. From here, Connor, had you read this first time round, or is this a reread for you?
I definitely plan to reread this, and Hellblazer. I love 90s Vertigo. That is, like, when I got into comics, the first era I tried to catch back up on was then. It's just...
It is quality stuff.
I love... Yeah. I just love its mix of, like, fun, darkness, political commentary.
Yeah. And I'm not sure...
Hellblazer.
And it is really raw.
Yeah. So who else from Vertigo? I mean, because I've only really read Sandman and Gaiman. Is it just Gaiman that is bringing this quality? Are other Vertigo? Oh, actually, Grant Morrison. I think I did an Isla Ra with Animal Man. I'm not sure if that was Vertigo. No, maybe not.
Well, yes.
Was it
Hellblazer,
yeah. So, who are the other writers that we should watch out for in around this time? I guess. I mean, are they all the same, or is it just pure Gaiman?
No, you got like
there's lots.
Yeah.
Alan Moore's Saga of the Swamp Thing.
Yeah, Alan Moore, of course. True.
You've got Peter Milligan's Shade the Changing Man, Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol and Animal Man.
Yeah, Grant Morrison's quite good. I do like that Animal Man. But yeah, the Gaiman's cool. And art-wise here, this was actually quite good. It reminded me... It had similar... is this... because I'm about to say it reminds me a lot of Sam Keith, but it's not him, right? Is it? No. Illustrated by Kelly Jones and Kelly Jones and Malcolm Jones.
Malcolm Jones the third.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of.
Look, it's not my favourite art, but I don't dislike it either.
Yeah. Kelly Jones I find too inconsistent, but then he does some really standout panels for me. So reading one of his books is never undesirable. So, I mean, I'd always love someone like Sam Keith or some of the guys who did later on this book.
Well, look, absolutely, Connor, about inconsistency. Like a few of the facial expressions here, you get some real jewels of portraiture here from Jones, but then you get some kind of what seems to be rushed almost depictions along. But it's pretty good. Enjoyable. All right, well, that leaves us to your final one, Rebecca. And I'm going to, again, have to lean heavily on yourself and on Mr. Conishu for this.
We're all going to lean heavily on Conishu. This is Transformers More Than Meets the Eye. A very new addition to my comic reading.
Right.
But honestly, hand on heart, is probably the number one omnibus I would take away with me.
Wow.
I think it is one of the finest comics being written.
Connor, that's testament to you, because I do remember when you were first starting reading Rebecca More Than Meets the Eye
Yeah, well, I had a few friends on Twitter who kept going on about it. Around the run up to issue 50, we're always saying, "Oh, it's great, it's amazing," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm really going to read Transformers comic, whatever." So I've heard a lot of people only ever talk about it in good terms. And then I talked to Connor about it as well, and I was like, maybe. And then there was a sale on Comixology, and I'm like, maybe now is the time.
Yeah.
And just fell for it. and now I'm completely up to date. It's going to end for us in October, which is very sad. But it's such an achievement of a run. And look, as previously said about my age, I have zero connections to Transformers. To me, there was something my stepbrother liked when he was 11, and I was like 18, and I was like, whatever.
You become endeared with them now through the comic books.
look, I'm never going to love all Transformers, but I particularly like these ones.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it will ever make me love the Transformers, because I recognise this is a very unique part of the universe and a unique set of Transformers. But it has taught me to be a lot less prejudiced over what I read, and that if somebody says something is a quality run, that it doesn't necessarily have to be characters I have history with for me to enjoy it.
Look, before we get into it, I mean, I just wanted to, as an absolute newbie as well, I did find, and we spoke about this, Rebecca, as well, about it being a little difficult. I found it a little difficult to follow myself. I can appreciate there's a different sort of banter and a different sort of dialogue that happens between them. That it paces differently from comics I'm used to, which I immediately noticed a difference in that. But yeah, not having known any of the Transformers myself, I kind of lost who was who and who was talking.
It took me ages to be able to work out who was who. Yeah. There are so many of them that look the same to me. And a lot of us have had the same problem.
Right.
So I didn't pick one of the standard ones people pick as a standalone issue, which is my bad. But I did pick it for a reason. But yes, it's so not only does it have the witty banter and the this, that, and the other, and the characters you can't really recognise, it also has time jumping.
Yes.
So it doesn't help.
No.
You actually have to pay attention to what time things are happening. So I picked issue 12. Issue 13 is one of the ones people would suggest you started with as a standalone.
Okay.
But I read issue 13 and I was like, I don't know. I still don't think you'd get as much of it. I've given us the start of a few big relationships.
Okay.
So that's, I guess, one of the things I wanted to talk about. It's James Roberts and the art by Alex Milne. And what else can we talk about it? There's not much of a story to it. The story so far. It's about Rodimus, who is leading a ragtag group of Autobots on the starship Lost Light in search of the legendary Knights of Cybertron. Now, this summary says that's all you need to know. I'm not sure that is all you need to know. But that's the basic concept of the whole More Than Meets the Eye thing.
Okay.
And the only other thing you need to know is the war between the Autobots and the Decepticons is over.
Okay, right.
So they even have some ex-Decepticons in their crew, right, Connor?
Yes, your big purpley boy Cyclonus.
Yes.
He was actually a real big bad right up until the end. Drift was as well before he defected. He's the samurai looking son of a bitch. Who else? I think that's the only amount early on.
Right. It doesn't really like a side thing. It doesn't really like a samurai, but whatever. So
He's got the samurai sword. He's got the sleek. I don't know.
Oh, is that dude? He looks pretty cool, and he's got the sword down the back as well. Yeah. Cool.
He's a good boy. So there's a lot of. I don't think we can really go plot-wise.
Right, yeah, sure.
There's a lot of. Basically, they're preparing to mount an attack, and it's going to jump around. So we start just over an hour and a half before the attack. And the comic's called Before and After. There's a few key players. Cyclonus is going to be one of them. He's the one with the purple horns. I don't know, what should we talk? I don't want to talk about the plot because it is confusing, and I apologise for that.
Can I ask? Rodimus is the yellow and red one, right? And
yes, he's the yellow and red cute one that everyone always mocks.
What does he turn into? Because I have vague recollections of Transformers, and I have
a sports
car,
right?
It was like this Japanese sports car.
Because I remember when I was.
He was called Hot Rod.
Oh, Hot Rod. Okay, I think that was the one. I remember when I was little, that was one of the most sought after. I think it was him. I remember red and yellow, and I remember it being I'm just wondering if it was him.
Yeah, he was the main of the Transformers movie, and then the season that followed that.
Ah, right. Yeah. Okay. Cool. And Optimus wasn't he?
You guys kind of.
Sorry.
Optimus is he's not in More Than Meets the Eye.
Oh, okay.
More Than Meets the Eye starts with a comic called, if you buy the trade, The Death of Optimus Prime.
Oh, he died.
So, well, you know, there's a comic called The Death of Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. And Megatron makes an appearance way later in the run.
Okay.
So you find out, but you get some of the banter. It's written by a British guy.
Yeah. The banter's very.
I think I jokingly said that if Ivor wasn't on the list and if we'd had the Authority instead of a Midnighter issue, most of mine would have been British writers, which says something a bit weird about the things I naturally like.
Well, there are a lot of really good.
But British humour is the best humour.
Yeah, that's it.
There is a distinctly British sense of humour, which tends to be a little bit self-deprecating, a little bit sarcastic, and I actually thought it was weird when I gave you that first list and they literally were all British writers. And then I was like, oh, well, maybe, because I think it was only the Valiant one that might have not been, because they don't have many British writers. But originally I was toying with the EXO wedding issue.
Yeah. Oh, that would have been a good one as well. Love that issue.
Yeah, which I think is another great standalone. Yeah. But then I was like, everyone knows Ivor's my favourite, so we should pick Ivor, even if he's not the most big name of Valiant.
Oh, no, that's a strong issue.
So, it's definitely one of the things I like about More Than Meets the Eye is that, you know, there's a sense that Rodimus is definitely not the world's greatest leader.
No.
You know, even in this one where they're debating, like, whether you brief someone before or after and debrief them, you know, like when you brief someone, when you debrief them.
Yeah.
They're laughing about him always saying "till all are one." You know, there's a healthy sense of like of a little bit of mocking going on even within leadership, and I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, kind of what
I love.
Sorry, Rebecca.
No, it's all right. I was just.
I was about to say, kind of, what are your thoughts on this issue as well? And being a Transformers guru, how does this weigh up? I think in the scheme of things, like, is it? I mean, obviously, as Rebecca said, it's a hard one to jump into. How does it go from here onwards?
Well, I mean, I was like a Transformers fan as a kid, dropped out, and it was only because I just read about anything anyone told me to read on Reddit back in the day that I read More Than Meets the Eye. This book that actually got me back into Transformers. You know, this is kind of like the top tier for me.
Yeah.
But I think Rebecca and I both agree that this issue and the four that follow it in this specific volume 4 of More Than Meets the Eye, are just some of the best for just like really just annoyingly, amazingly emotional moments from a bunch of bloody robots that just
This is really it's basically volume 4, and it's if you're reading the series, like however confused you are, and I was like super confused. You read this one and you're like, I'm in.
Okay.
Like I didn't know these robots could make me feel like this.
I remember you saying that as well. Like I remember you saying. You added on to I can't believe robots are giving me this sense of satisfaction. So no, great.
So there's certainly something. So you get some of the big relationships in this one starting and finishing. So sorry, I now have a kitten helping me.
Can we hear Ozzy? Is Ozzy anywhere near the mic?
He's not. He's near, but he's not feeling squeaky at things.
Not bleating.
No. So for anybody who wants to know what the kitten got called, he got called Ozymandias.
Yes. Very cool name.
Yes. Which is the Greek version of Ramesses. So if you wanted to know if there is a Moon Knight connection, there you go. It's a little pharaoh's name.
Yeah. I suggested to Rebecca Bushman, but just wouldn't take. So.
Yeah, it just wasn't going with that. Khonshu was on the list for a while, but yeah.
And well, you know,
it'll be confusing if I call my cat.
Egyptians did like their cats, so it was a nice link there.
Yes.
So
what else?
Sorry. I was about to just.
No, I was just
about to ask Connor about Gibbsy. Is he around?
Nah, he buggered off. I had to deal with him.
Larky buggered off.
Yeah.
She got jumped on She got jumped on a few too many times.
Oh, she must just be loving Ozzy.
He's just going. He's off to try and unplug the. We had a literal gladiator match going on earlier. He was like leaping in the air and jumping at her, and he's very interested in cough sweets at the moment.
Yeah, you're saying he was taking them out of the wrapper or the packet.
No, out of the packet. Yeah. Oh, and then he tipped the bin over to get all the wrappers, and I found 5 wrappers in my room this morning, like just strewn across the floor.
He knows what he likes.
So, he knows what makes good cat toys.
Yeah.
And apparently it's anything he can like carry around with him and make a mess with.
Yeah, I've had an epiphany as well. I've just left the door ajar, so there's no more allure for the cats. There's no more mystery. So Flip and Mace bug it off as well. They just they're bored. Usually when I close the door, they're either meowing and scratching at the door. So I think I'm going to do this.
Oh yeah, he does. Oh, well, I always leave it. I actually have a toy rat.
Oh.
That I use as a doorstop. And occasionally one of the cats will run off with it.
Oh, wow, heavy.
And we'll find. No, it's quite. I mean, it's big. It's it's a big cuddly toy rat, but it's about half Ozzy's size. Yeah. But it hasn't stopped him from picking it up and carrying it to other rooms. If he feels like it. So.
Oh, nice.
But now he's just patrolling my desk, throwing pens off. At the moment, mortally offended by the fact I have a pen on my desk.
Yes, they cannot have that there, not at all.
No. It's just a bad thing.
So Transformers More Than Meets the Eye, Rebecca, was come in at number 1, and look, as you said, an omnibus of this would be the most desired thing on Isla Ra.
Yep, and looks like it might be coming once the run is finished.
Yeah, cool.
So
when did it start? When did this whole run start?
I think it's going to have been 8 years by the time it finishes. Does that sound right?
Yeah,
Connor?
Wow.
6 years, I think it's 2012.
That's a good long run.
Yeah, so 6 years, yeah.
Oh, yeah. From IDW. Well, we're talking just one publisher, same kind of... Yeah, wow. Yeah. Jeez.
It's, and it'll be, 80 issues in total?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Cool.
Because it's, it starts off being called More Than Meets the Eye, and then switches to Lost Light.
Okay.
For the last 25 issues.
Right. Cool. And, actually, another little, just one final thing. I noticed there was a Dinobot there. That's pretty cool. Is that right? Is that what they're called? The dinosaur transformer? I just noticed.
Which buddy is this?
Page 13.
In this
issue, yeah. There's someone riding a Dinobot. That's cool.
Oh, that's actually a Terracon.
Oh, okay.
They're like weird monster things.
Yeah, right.
Right, you see, that's what you need.
Yeah, I think so.
Whatever, Dinobot.
A nice one. Yeah, cool. Okay, well, I mean, those are the 4 books, Rebecca. Thank you so much for sharing that. And loonies out there, I hope that this has been an eye-opener for any of you. Or maybe it's just reaffirming. Maybe you do collect Transformers and have read Sandman and Midnighter. And it's just really fun to learn about new stuff. These certainly, apart from Iva, are new ones to me. I've only read, I think it was Sandman, The Doll's House, the first one, So it's very, very interesting. Connor, we're going to have to do an Isla Ra for yourself as well one day.
And for you, right? Yeah. We've got to see what cracking that.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're banding around now on Facebook. I'm loving those 10-day covers. It's really cool to see whatever everyone kind of posts up. No explanation, just put your one cover a day. It's that's been pretty cool. But
it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. So again, Rebecca, I hope you get better with the coughing and this one. So if only Ozzy will allow you to have some of the cough drops, then hopefully then you can make a speedy recovery. And so Loonies, I will put all the show notes for Rebecca's local comic book stores and her Isla Ra books onto the episode summary, so be sure to check that out. And also, as for next phase, just be sure to, what we've been introducing is the phases of the moon, so just have a look up, see what it is, and, and that will be the type of episode we'll have next coming up. But look, we're still at Jenna's Diner. I think Crawley was alluding to us going to a tea party, so I think we better get out of here. Let's jump into the limo, and I think he's got a tea party happening down the road somewhere. You're all keen for that?
I mean, I'm not sure what kind of tea party we're looking at.
I know, he's a bit of
Alice in Wonderland than probably anything.
Well, he's a bit mad, isn't he?
Safe.
So I've got no idea. We better just bring a mobile phone just in case. But in any case, as always, Connor, I guess, where can loonies find us?
Where can loonies find us? All our cool stuff, by that I mean our website where we post all of our content, newsletters, all that stuff, is intothenightpodcast.wordpress.com. We are facebook.com/ITKMoonKnight. We have a fantastic group as well, where we're chatting all the time. Facebook.com/groups/ITKMoonKnight. We're at ITKMoonKnight, and I believe our Gmail is moonknightpodcast@gmail.com.
Yep. And also ITK Moon Knight. I've changed it as well. Yep. So it makes it easier.
Feedback, updates, all around there. We're on hopefully all your podcast catches. We're on YouTube, Tumblr and all that stuff as well. Just search for either ITK Moon Knight or Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast, and we should be there.
And just like to add to that as well, we are part of the collective, so you'll note that we try to support, we try to cross-promote other collective members as well. A great bunch of podcasters and podcast shows. So if you're on Twitter, just check out #TheCollectiveNetwork, and that should lead you towards any of the collective members. It includes comic-based characters such as Namor, Ghost Rider, Iron Fist. They all have different podcasts. Inhumans, Adelan Rising, as well as more broader comic book-based podcasts like We Have a Hulk, I Am Your Target Demographic, which is on YouTube, and also a couple of other ones, EMP and Weird Science, Marvel podcasts. So check all those out. They're really cool, and just keep on listening to cool podcasts. Without any further ado, guys, I think we better head out and meet Crawley at this tea party. But, as always, may Khonshu watch over the denizens of the night. Catch you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.